and I know they can walk one kiri. Udala FM Osemukenun Janina, and even a balloon in Jebu, 104.7 in our own more, Oguna, Majiba Janin again, I'm a Fuana, a Japan in Oli, a Fonam, a banana was an Yakamun, a Panebu, in our one more. Udala FM on a well in Jebu, Ndomo Go, Ndoma.
Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic. Udala Radio 104.7 FM.
Udala Majago, Mbagolibe, Moliba, Udala Majago. Mwagante, Udala FM, Mamaga, Udala Majago. Na 104.7 corner, Udala Majago. Current affairs is entertainment in a police. Udala Majago. 104.7 kind of network. Udala Majago. That's yours. Udala Majago. 104.7 kind of network. That's yours. 104.7 FM, seriously authentic.
When politics unfolds, when decisions are made, we reveal the impact. Welcome to the Polity, your deep dive into the forces shaping governance, policies, and power. From the halls of government.
You were there. I was not there. Check the record. Wait now. You were there. I was not there.
To the voices of the people.
We are suffering. This suffering is too much. It's too much. Look at the students. There's no job. They finish school. There's no job for them.
We analyze the undercurrents, expose the intrigues, and break down the narratives that define our democracy. Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki delivering razor-sharp analysis, and Ebuka Franklin and Chisom on the question wheel, driving the conversation. We bring you the most compelling discussions on governance, policies, and power plays. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay ahead. The Polity, every weekdays at 9:15 a.m. Exclusive on Udala 104.7 FM Onitsha.
Okay, so it's 9:17 a.m. here on the Radio 104.7 FM, and it's time for us to bring you the Polity, where we get to bring you developments in the polity as they are captured by different newspapers in the country. Today happens to be Thursday, and this is the last edition of the Polity we're going to be having in the month of July, because today, July 31st, 2025. By next time we congregate on this platform, is going to be in the month of August. So are you ready for the month of August, the month of people like us? All right. I will speak much about this. I'll talk about it later. All right. So welcome to the Polity Thursday edition. My name is Franklin Ebuka, and I'm not alone. Chisom Chinedu is in the building. Good morning, Chisom.
Good morning, Franklin. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Only that each time I open any page of social media and I see the kind of ethnic hate that we parade this time around, I keep on asking myself what can become of the country in the next 2 years. I know that in the build up to the 2023 general election, I left X. I mean, when I say X, I stopped going to X because of the amount of hate people used to churn out on X, I stopped being active there. But this time around, it seems that as we are preparing for the 2027 general election, that the hate is growing and the gap is widening. So can we ever find a middle ground where we can peacefully coexist and be happy for each other?
Well, I don't think that it's ever entirely going to go away, especially with the whole idea of reconciliation and rebuilding not being properly taken care of. It's still a paperwork. Probably when we start to do an actual reconciliation in practical, when we start to reconcile and rebuild practically, then these other people who are hating would say that there is no need to hate. And the people who feel hated would realize that, okay, these are moves for you to feel more accepted. So until we are ready to walk the talk, I don't know. It's unfortunately not ready to change.
All right, so from that very line, we have to go to the papers now and look at the papers we have this very morning. We have 4 of them, and we're going to begin to read out the headline before we get to introduce Tony on the analysis desk. And we have 4 newspapers, The Guardian, The Punch, Vanguard, and Tribune newspapers. We'll begin with the headlines on the Punch newspaper. There is this headline here that says, let's look at this very one. It says, manhunt begins for killers of Anambra businessman despite paying ransom. This very story yesterday, it was everywhere on the social media, especially on the Anambra social media space. It even went beyond, because some persons outside this very southeast, they've been talking about this very development. Maybe time is going to permit us to talk about it. And we go to the front page of the Punch newspaper. The banner headline says, FGI's 796 billion naira annually from 5% petrol surcharge. You can see the story on page 31. It has a rider that says consumers decry new fuel tax after subsidy removal as law commences January 2026. Another headline says Port Harcourt refinery not for sale. NNPC, that's on page 31. NNPCL Group Managing Director spoke yesterday. He said they are not going to sell Port Harcourt refinery. According to him, what affected the refinery's performance is that it began operation way ahead of when it was supposed to begin operation. Another headline says varsity students to face drug test, says Education Ministry. It's on page 7. If you check some other stories or some other headlines in other newspapers, they will tell you that it's a compulsory drug test for university students, whether you are a fresher or whether you are a returning student. Abiodun welcomes ex-PDP chair, that's to Ogun APC. That's on page 25 of Punch newspaper. Gunmen stab Ogun businessman to death. You can see the story on page 5. Kings must respect ancestral burial rights or quit throne. One day Abimbola. That's on page 3 of the Punch newspaper. We then go beside the nameplate. UTME fraud, JAM prosecuted 110 in 5 years. That's on page 7. You will see the picture of JAM registrar Oluyode beside that very story. Then above the nameplate, we have 2 headlines here. One says patients groan as nurses strike grounds hospitals nationwide. Can we actually say that the hospitals are grounded? Because from some of the stories we followed, medical services are going on, but because nurses are not there, there's some kind of thing that nurses will take care of without you calling the doctor. But there is services are ongoing, actually, medical services. But the point is, these people need to be taken care of. Whatever is their concerns, government needs to look into it. Let's see how we can resolve that. Another story on Punch says reps probe Nigerian miners abuse claim in CAR. You can see the story on page 7. And before we get to the next paper, let's bring on board Tony Olisa Mbeki. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Franklin. Ebuka, good morning. Nigerians, good morning. The good people of Southeast, good morning. In their number, in the Onitsha, do wherever you are listening to us from. It's always a pleasure to be here. And like we always say, we are in our sanctuary. And whenever we come here, the spirit is high. And then the mere mortal you see may not be mortal again, but we'll go straight into the realm of the spirit, because what we do here, we are in the realm of the spirit. The atmosphere is totally spiritual. You're welcome.
Good morning, Tony. We are going to the Guardian newspaper now. Suspended school feeding initiative leaves 9 million pupils to 50,000 jobs stranded. On page 6, 9 million pupils to 50,000 jobs stranded. I mean, the first time I saw a video of what happens with the school feeding, I was wondering, yes, I know what they say, half bread is better than puff puff, but if we are pursuing proper nutrition by working on this initiative, the last time I checked, it was off track. So we really need to work on the blueprint of the entire school feeding initiative before we have any more money put into that initiative. On page 2, Alia dissolves cabinet, appoints Atare as new COS. Marginalization, North's fiscal position stronger under Tinubu, says Bagudu on page 3. NNPCL suspends sale of refinery, exports 400,000 metric tons of refined products on page 7. 2027, Rufai reveals PDP in talks with Obi for major return on page 3. This is not the first time this has been said. Fingers crossed. Ministry, NDLEA, okay, compulsory drug tests for undergraduates on page 30. Nurses begin warning strike over poor conditions, leaves patients stranded on page 6. TCN board reaffirms corporate governance standard facts for long tenure of interim directors on page 8. Saudi to expand operations in Nigeria with TransBlue partnership on page 5.
Okay, so let's go back to Vanguard newspaper. The banner headline says operating PH refinery ahead of full turnaround. Ill-informed NNPCL has riders. Rules out sale of refineries. 18 billion US dollars spent on 3 refineries. TAN, all that so far. That's on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. That we have spent $18 billion on turnaround maintenance on the 3 refineries. And the question is, what has been the output? Another headline here says, mixed reactions to INEC's verdict on local government polls. I think yesterday when we read the headline, I talked about, is it a story of pot calling kettle black? And now Nigerians have reacted, asking INEC, how fair and how far have you done in your own responsibilities? Hospital services disrupted as nurses strike enters day 3. Negotiations continue tomorrow. That's on page 9, or rather page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. IDPs protest. Oh my goodness. IDPs protest in Benue, block Macro de la Fair roads. That's on page 7 of Vanguard newspaper. And the headline says First Bank grows earnings by 18.1% to 1.6 trillion naira. That's on page 19 of Vanguard newspaper. And there is a picture story here where you are going to see the face of Vice President Kashim Shettima. It's on the front page, and it says Shettima at UN Food Summit. And then another story says Nigeria was heading for 12 trillion naira subsidy debt. PCNGI is saying so. That's on page 8 of Vanguard newspaper. Phantom coup. Labour Party alleges harassment of leaders. That's on page 9. Yesterday, the Anambra State, Nenade Usman constituted a caretaker committee to lead Labour Party in Anambra State. So are they making an effort to ensure that they have taken hold of the party structures here? And then another headline says, my generation was robbed. Who is saying so? Patience average. That's on sports column on page 38. And the headline says presidency ex-ADC chair Beaker over alleged ministerial bribe offer. That's on page 32. The presidency has responded to the claim or allegation which was made by Ralph Okenwosu, former ADC national chairman, where he said that he was offered a 3 ministerial slots for him to jettison the idea of allowing ADC to be used as a coalition platform. And Daniel Bwala was on TV yesterday where he said that there was no element of truth in what he said, and he dared him to name those very persons. And I hope in the coming days that if Wosu will go further to review more about what actually happened. So these are the stories we have on Vanguard newspaper.
And from the Vanguard, we proceed to the Tribune. Banner headline: NMPC rules out sale of Port Harcourt refinery. On page 2, Petroan rejects plans not to privatize refinery. 6 arrested over vandalization of Warri Kaduna crude oil pipeline in Edo. Now, above the nameplate of the paper, First Holdco posts strong earnings growth in H1 2025. On page 5, North calls for equitable distribution of resources to address regional imbalance. On page 4, Bagudu: Tinubu has been faithful to the North, says President Fed to all that's a rider. On page 3, Benue IDPs protest over 1 billion naira donation by Tinubu's wife. On page 25, $245 billion human trafficking scourge threatens Nigeria's security. The AGF has that to say on page 2. Adeleke deploys 1,750 Mole teachers corps to Osun schools. On page 12. On the health sector, you'd see that lead in gasoline linked to cognitive impairment in Generation X. That's on page 3. Nurses strike grounds hospitals. The riders' hospitals reject patients for admission. FG appeals to nurses, midwives. On page 3 there. We are appealing, or should we go straight to doing the right thing?
Okay, so that's the question that's going to lead us into the analysis. But you stay with us, we'll be right back.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Alright, so you are listening to The Polity on Udala Radio 4.7 FM. My name is Franklin Ebuka. I have Dr. Olisa Mbeki and Chisom with me on the platform this very morning. And don't forget that we're always live on our Facebook page, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. A live feed is there now. You can go there, drop your comment in response to different issues that are going to be read this very morning. Don't forget that you can share the video and like the page. Also go to our YouTube channel and Instagram live. We also live on these very platforms, Udala Radio. Even on X, you can get engaged with us. Let's get to talk and deep in conversation that can help us to advance our democracy. And we're going to start from home. And when I say home, I mean Anambra State, because charity begins at home. There is a story on Vanguard newspaper on Punch newspaper that says manhunt begins for killers of Anambra businessman despite paying ransom. And the story says that the Anambra State Police Command has launched a manhunt for the year to identify the gunmen who abducted and killed a popular businessman, Ife Sinachi Onyekere, also known as a fish magnet, despite the payment of an undisclosed amount for ransom. Onyekere, son of the All Progressive Grand Alliance chieftain in the state, was abducted on Saturday when some assailants invaded his residence in Ezinifte community, Opuno, Kasa local government area of Anambra State, in a late-night attack. The story says our correspondent gathered that the incident sent panic and shockwaves to the area as the armed hoodlums shot the victim in the leg before whisking him away in his car. A source in the area told our correspondent in confidence that the hoodlums invaded the victim's compound in an ash-colored sports utility vehicle and forced their way into his compound where they abducted him. The source said the attackers arrived in an ash-colored Lexus SUV at about 10:30 p.m., forced their way into the compound and fled the scene in the victim's Toyota Corolla after shooting him in the leg. These are the actual words of the source. He goes on to say the assailant escaped through bush paths towards Northia while firing gunshot into the air, thereby triggering panic in the area. Local volunteers and security watch groups who were contacted launched a search effort, while authorities are working to trace the victim's phone and make contact with the kidnappers. That's under extract from the source. This story yesterday, we got to hear about the confirmation of the guy's death. This thing happened on Saturday. The story was out on Sunday that somebody was kidnapped in Bono. But people were hoping that, he will be returned. People were hoping that for the fact that ransom had been paid, that he will be released, only for the family to be contacted and told to go to a certain area and pick up the corpse of their son. And this guy's killing has sent shockwaves around Anambra State and even beyond, to the point that people outside the state are already reacting, asking questions. Why would somebody of such an enterprising promise should be killed at this point? So it boils down to an issue of concerns about insecurity. What's your thought on this? What does it say about level of insecurity or level of security in Anambra State?
I think it has been something that is going on, just like you mentioned, within Anambra State's social media space. And last night, I spent almost an hour going through the young man's video about his business and his enterprise. And then he has shown every youth out there that there is not just dignity in labor, but honest engagement, business engagement pays. From provision, sells somewhere at Ekoka, he moved on to be a fish farmer. From the look of things, many people are politicizing the incident, the issue of security. And I have always warned, do not politicize security for every reason. But then, the killers of the fish magnates, Ifesinachi Onyekere. Remember, the mother is the women leader, Anambra State All Progressives Grand Alliance. So the mother is someone who is fully into politics. But from the look of things, his death may not be linked to politics. It is pure assassination. And the killers of this young man, they are nothing short of vile predators, soulless agents of terror who thrive on bloodshed and pain. They are not just criminals, they are heartless beasts, clothed in human flesh, but void of conscience, who plotted and executed the cold-blooded abduction and murder of a young enterprising man whose only crime was striving to succeed. They are cowardly scum, too weak to build, yet bold enough to destroy. Operating like hyenas in the dark, they struck with calculated wickedness, dragging their victim from the comfort of his home and delivering death with no flicker of remorse. These killers are social cancers, feeding off fear, leaving trail of sorrow, and also tearing communities apart. Their existence is a blight on humanity, and they deserve nothing less than swift and unforgiving justice. But as for young man who died, I have not known him. Yesterday was my first time getting to know that such a young man, very handsome. When we talk about handsomeness, this young man is outrightly roundly handsome and enterprising. That is the whole thing. I have seen videos where tributes were pouring in their numbers, and one of the friends was saying this man, his only crime was striving to succeed. And not just that, I looked at some of the videos and he said he has crushed the price of fish in the market. In fact, he did raw fishes, the one you call Azu Bolonko. Catfish, look at the farm. Thriving. And this young man had a social media presence. Look at the packaging, the branding, fish magnet. All of a sudden, these social cancers, beasts without conscience, sniff out life from this young man. But for those who are politicizing his death, I have a word for you. I have listened to those who are saying, accusing Soludo, saying, Soludo, where are you? These things are happening and all that. They have talked about so many things, but they have forgotten assassination is quite different from random and wanton kidnapping for ransom and killings, memeing. This year alone, I recall very well that in Washington D.C., recall that the shooter attacked outside the Jewish Museum during an embassy event where the shooter killed 2 Israeli embassy staffers. We talked about it, and this happened sometime around May 21st. Nobody in Washington D.C. politicized about this shooter who killed 2 Israeli staffers. And remember, the shooters may have done that because of what is going on between Israel and Palestine, or between Israel and Hamas, or between Israel and Iran. There was something behind it. And this young man, his only offense was he was crashing fish prices. And those who may be behind his death, they may not be unconnected to those who are also in that business. They knew his home. He was not picked on the road. He was in his house at about 10 p.m. or 10:30 p.m. They invaded his home, not on the street, not on the road. They invaded his home, picked him, they shot him on his legs, demobilized him, whisked him away in his Toyota Corolla, blue, or I don't know the number, the color. And that's what they did. And we are told that the lifeless body was seen somewhere around Ibariamu Ukulu, Azix. Pure assassination. There is no kind of security you may put in place that will prevent this kind of assassination. It was targeted, it was precise, and they executed it. But the good thing is, police have swung into action. They have recovered the body. They have recovered some of the tools they used to execute this heinous crime. But do not politicize this incident for any reason.
Okay, so away from the idea of insecurity and security matters being politicized, seeing a young person like that wasted in that manner, I mean, the fact that the young person had to die, we are talking a person who took up the work of, or took up the role of not just employing himself, but also providing employment, also helping the food industry in Nigeria. From what we know, he was a farmer, a fish farmer, and all of that. It really cut deep. And then, away from politicizing it, I think we should be looking at security being spread out such that people who have such intentions as assassination would not also have space to operate. I think that is what we should be looking at. Is there anything extra we can do as a people in terms of our security apparatus to make sure that the nooks and crannies are covered? From what we have on the news, it was alleged that they trailed him to his home, where they took him from. They shot him and took him away from home. Is there somehow we can have security tightened, surveillance, so much so that, I mean, when he was being dragged out and taken inside the vehicle, when his mother, whatever could have been done to make sure that these people do not just have the leeway to take him away to wherever they took him from. The point is making sure that we have security officials in the nooks and the crannies.
If you look around, if you look at that incident, just like I cited what happened in Washington, D.C., where a shooter went agog and attacked a Jewish museum during an embassy event, killing 2 Israeli embassy staffers. The suspect, according to stories, reportedly shouted political slogans afterward. The question is, was there no security in Washington, D.C.? It was a targeted attempt. Were there no surveillance cameras? There are some assassinations you may not stop, because the attackers, they knew the environment. They knew his home. Our target when it comes to improving security should be random kidnapping, where the attackers may not know who they may be kidnapping. They stop the person on the road where we should have security, or if the person is kidnapped, the idea for them to be stopped somewhere. But that's one. But like what we'll be talking about, the killers of this young man should be arrested, and where the state fails to arrest them, it means there is no security. It has happened. There is no doubt about it. And I can also tell you, not just in Washington, D.C., I remember there are some other places in the world where things like this happen. In fact, in Minnesota, sometime around June 14, former State House Speaker Melissa Hotman and her husband were assassinated in a politically motivated attack at their home. June 14, Minnesota, United States of America. Former State House Speaker Melissa Hotman and her husband, both of them were assassinated. And it was the politically motivated attack. And John Hoffman and his wife were also seriously injured. In fact, you ask, where or was there no security in Minnesota, United States of America? And I can also go on to tell you that if you talk about, I remember sometime around April 30, when opposition member of parliament Charles Onkongo, he was killed in Nairobi in a targeted motorcycle assassination. So he was stopped at the traffic lights. And the attack is also believed to be politically motivated. You ask, was there no security at that very spot? I can also tell you what happened somewhere at Bogota, Colombia, sometime around June 7, where a senator and presidential candidate, Miguel Europe Tobe, he survived a targeted shooting at a campaign rally. You ask, was there no security in that area? The most important thing is this young man has probably started the honestness of fish vendors and fish sellers, doing what many of them considered haram. Why was this crashing prices? Why was it selling far below what many of us are selling? And he was making these videos on social media, populating it with every energy he had. And many of them felt that the only way to get this man out for our business to thrive was to just get him eliminated. It was business motivated assassination. That's the point I'm trying to make.
So for you, it was an assassination because there was a narrative somewhere saying that the disease was shot in the leg in his compound because, when they accosted him, he trying to see what he could salvage from that very moment, and they shot him in the leg. And they are saying that probably all the time they were driving him around in that very vehicle they left with, he was allowed to bled to death. Somebody was saying maybe what they wanted was to take a ransom and allow him to go. But somebody somewhere was also saying maybe it was just a targeted assassination. But in the midst of all the perspectives we have had so far, just like you have given an example that there are security breaches everywhere in the world. It can happen at anywhere in the world. But what makes the difference is the reaction and identification.
That is it. That is it.
Will we be able to identify those who are responsible for this and be able to arrest them? That is what is going to make the difference.
That is it. If we fail to arrest those who are responsible, bring them to justice, we have failed in terms of security. That is the point I'm trying to make. Because the incidents I pointed out in different parts of the world, all those who were involved were arrested. So the task now behoves on our security outfits to ensure that these people are arrested and brought to justice, as we saw in the case of Justice Azuka. After so many months, the killers were later arrested. So that is the most important thing. There are times you cannot stop targeted assassination. They have seen it in many parts of the world. So for you to stop a targeted, well coordinated and precise assassination is by a whisker. So we must get that.
So if what we know now that is out there in the media, if they turn out to be fact, we have to believe that police has things to work with. Take for instance, there was a report that ransom was paid. I'm not sure the ransom was paid in cryptocurrency. It was probably paid into a bank account, and there was communications, between from one line to the other. So it's for the police to do what they're supposed to do.
And then some people are linking this to political assassination. The mother is the woman leader of Abga, and they called the mother on the phone and asked the mother to come and pick the lifeless body of your son. So for some people, with that call, they are really meaning that this could be political assassination. Those who may not be happy with the mother's engagement and her office, the way she coordinates that. Some people are really meaning into that. I don't know why these people, these beasts, assassins, would do just that. A kind of a mother who is grieving, you call her and ask her to come and pick the life or the lifeless body of her son. That is wickedness in a selfish.
Okay, so we go for commercial break now. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Good news and welcome to Winners Global Estate, Heaven in Ogwashuku and Nyocha Local Government Area, Asaba, Delta State. Home sweet home.
Ladies and gentlemen, mamas and papas, Winners Global Estate is here with a special promo package for real winners. Don't miss out in this laudable promo 2025, Heaven on Earth.
Buy, build, live, work, and enjoy. Unlock your dream home of reality. Winners Global Estate is selling fast. 3.5 million, 50 by 100. No more 7 million. Promo price. For booking and more information, please call
081 64 40 4098 or 080 37 44 3787. Winners Global Estate. Your security is assured.
Winners Global Estate.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic. You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
And of course, you're tuned to the radio 104.7 FM, and this is the Polity on your radio this very morning. My name is Franklin and Ebuka, Olisa Mbeki, and Chisom Chinedu. All of us are together this very morning for this very conversation. So we have to leave that very matter regarding the killing of a fish dealer in Anambra State to move to development in Benue State, where yesterday we saw some internal displaced persons, IDPs from various camps, who thronged the Udala Federal Highway and protested the non-sharing of the 1 billion naira donation made by Senator Olisa Mbeki, who happens to be the wife of the president. Senator Tinubu, who paid a condolence visit to the state on Tuesday, donated 1 billion naira for the victims of armed herder attacks. The displaced persons stormed the Udala Federal Highway, which disrupted the free flow of a vehicular movement. One of the protesters, who simply identified himself as Tessa, accused the state government of not giving out several donations it has received from spirited individuals. And he said, and I'm going to quote what he said: "Several people, both private and public spirited individuals, have been donating for the upkeep of displaced persons, but nothing has been received from the state government. The wife of the president, Senator Tinubu, yesterday donated 1 billion naira to displaced persons, and the state government is yet to reach out to us." Now, this is the accusation that has been put out by people who were protesting. Now, there's a side of the information officer of the State Emergency and Management Agency, talking about Tema Aga. He actually reacted to that very protest. Now, look at what he said. For him, he dismissed the claim made by the IDP, saying that no IDP in the state is being starved. And he went on to say that the state government has been constantly providing for their needs. He said this, and I quote: "The major issue that triggered this protest is politics, simply because the First Lady visited yesterday and announced that she donated 1 billion naira. You know the process of getting this money. Sometimes they just announce it. It is when they go back that they process it. What she announced yesterday cannot happen today. And so the money is for resettlement, not for food. And some of them are protesting that they were given money before and we have not shared it with them." Now he goes on to say that money is not meant to be shared with them. The protest was politically motivated. They were supposed to be given food last week, but the event was overtaken by events. And I need to add this: As we speak now, food is being distributed to them, but they protest that the road was politically motivated. The last time food was distributed to IDP was in May this year, but currently food is being distributed to the IDPs across the state. So the question is, why do we always have this allegation or this very fear that whatever is being donated to IDPs do not normally get to them, just like what you have seen in Benue State? Looking at the argument that has been put up by the information officer, do you think there's any element of truth in what he said, Tony?
I think an information officer, there could be element of truth. You ask me if there is any element of truth. I will tell you that there could be. Just like you pointed out yesterday, the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, officially presented 1 billion naira check to Governor Hyacinth Alia on behalf of IDPs in the state. But just as we know, many displaced people reacted with outrage, protesting on the Makurdi Lafayette Highway, citing ongoing hunger, severe neglect, and deteriorating conditions in their camps. They demanded to return home, and also they lamented the loss of pregnancies and lives due to malnutrition and alleged inadequate medical care. But the spokesperson had just done the clarification that the donation was intended for resettlement and long-term infrastructure, not immediate food supply. From what I can deduce from the whole issue is the fact that there is lack of trust. The IDPs do not trust the Benue State government. They say they have lost pregnancies in that camp. They have lost lives in that very camp. Neglect, malnutrition. And I must let you know that Benue State currently shelters over 500,000, about 182,000 internally displaced persons. That's a huge number, and that roughly represents about 38% of all displaced people in the north central region. And Benue has the highest chunk of internally displaced persons in the north central region. If you have such a figure, over 500,000, that's massive. And many of them have lamented quite a number of things: lack of infrastructure, lack of food, shelter, and so many things. P2B at a point was about to visit the same IDP to give his modest donation. What did Hyacinth Alia, the Reverend Father in Benue State, what did he do? He politicized it. He obstructed such movements, saying he cannot guarantee security, saying you cannot be doing charity, political charity. These people will prefer that political charity to the malnutrition they are talking about now. They will prefer that political charity to loss of lives they have witnessed in that camp. They will prefer the political charity to so many things they are facing. They don't trust the government. I must let you know that as at December 2024, nationwide figure revealed that Nigeria as a country hosts approximately 8.18 million internally displaced persons, according to the United Nations HCR June 2025 situation report. You can imagine such a number of internally displaced persons from countries in many places. There are so many West African countries. The people we have as internally displaced persons, about 8.18 million. Many of them, that number alone, constitute a number of countries in Africa, over 20 countries differently. It tells you that people ordinarily could have their own country. They are under our internally displaced persons camp. And I must let you know that as at sometime around September, was it 2023 or 2024, thereabouts, there was a survey which estimated that about 1.134 million people across 7 states, including Benue, are more or less in that camp. And many of them cannot access education. Many of them cannot access basic health care facilities or Medicare. They cannot access anything, and I can't imagine such situation. Nigeria is so fast deteriorating into, would I call it Bangladesh? Would I call it Sri Lanka? I don't know what to call it. And this is a country. And then I wanted to say something about the 1 billion donation, but immediately I got to know that it was for resettlement, not for food, because I would have said, why give these people food? Because somebody who eats today will be hungry tomorrow. No doubt. So I'm so much concerned about long-term effects. These people can learn certain vocations and skills and help themselves in life. Give them some kind of skills, more like teaching them how to fish as against giving them fish.
I totally understand you, Tony, but then I'm trying not to be very informal about this, but then it takes somebody who is alive today to resettle tomorrow and to also have those skills and all of that. And so I was wondering, first, are they properly taken care of? Because I bet if they had what they need, they wouldn't be protesting over this money yet. So the question would be, are they being properly taken care of? Are the resources that have been previously mapped out for their care getting to them? If that is if that's in the affirmative, then we can now start talking about explaining to them that this is for resettlement. But where basically they are not being taken care of, I think is all a combination of some sort of aggression that is pent up, not necessarily about this 1 billion, but for the fact they're not being properly taken care of.
Many of them go many days without food.
You see, so
many days
money for without
food
today, see life, but see tomorrow.
There are so many donations to that camp.
And who is
from
checking?
International donors, from different government agencies, but these people go through a lot of period suffering from hunger issues. Many of them have said many times that, and if you look at the numbers, and when they don't have food, they will be busy in the camp procreating. Yes. And why they do so? They have no option. They don't. Do you know what it means to have? If you go to different places, football matches, Old Trafford, 70-something thousand capacity, you have 70-something thousand. You see how crowded that place is. If you go to Emirates, about 60,000 capacity. You see how crowded. We are talking about 500,000. So what that means is what you have somewhere in Old Trafford, bring that number almost in how many fold? In 10 folds. That is large crowd. And the worst remains that the state government under Alia has no plans about these people. These are things he cannot shelter, but he prefers to play politics, and he has this target of 2027. But I must tell you the truth. From the report I have garnered from that very camp, many of them are sick, no drug, and they die. They keep burying themselves from time to time. Many of the children there, Pachoko, have ravaged them. For them, it's more like a civil war. See, it is very disheartening and they're quite lugubrious that this situation, they are ugly situation. And how would the world look at us? And one would say, oh, you have these kind of people and you're splashing such kind of money on super falcons. Why didn't you return such money to these people? But the truth remains that government seems to be misstepping on some issues. There's no doubt about it. And we can always point it out whenever it happens, because we're here to say the truth.
Okay, so, before we go for this very commercial break, I just want to talk about the experience I had, because here in Nigeria, it's like a norm that if you're not in your natural habitat, you are bound to encounter challenges when it comes to food. You talk about those who are displaced by flooding. Each time they go to IDP camp, they complain of not having adequate, facilities to take care of themselves and the food. Then those who are displaced by bandits or displaced by terrorists, they complain of the same thing. Just like what we are having in Benue State now. I can't forget the experience I had about 8 to 9 years ago when I visited an IDP camp in Edo State, Uhogwa precisely. I must say thank you to Olisa Mbeki then, when he was managing some IDP, when he was involved in humanitarian activities in Borno State, and went there to go and see how we can assist. And what I saw at Uhogwa then was mind-blowing. I saw a population that was very, very helpless. You look at the kind of shelter where they shelter, unthinkable. You see how people are crammed and crowded in small enclaves. Look at the toilet facility they use. Unthinkable. There was no school. It was just one reverend trying to see how we'll be able to create a school inside that very area. But guess what? People were coming to make donations, but the monies were not actually getting to these very people. And when we inquire it, we find out that some will deliver on their promises, some will not. They're just coming there for the photo ops, for political reasons, or donating 2 million. At the end of the day, the money doesn't get to them. And I discovered that day we went there, for a meal, they were cooking 6 bags of 50 kg. 6 bags of 50 kg bag of rice for a meal. That was what they were cooking in that very place. That tells you that it's very capital intensive for you to manage people who are in IDP camp. But the issue is, in the cases where monies are mapped out and meant to take care of these very people, we still find out that people still pilfer from those very funds. And keep on asking yourself, what makes people think that it is wise to pilfer from the misery of people who are in pains? Let's go for this very brief break.
Okay.
Udala Radio, 104.7 FM.
Solution don't you nigga.
Anambra South, are you ready? This Saturday, August 2nd, 2025, the people of Anambra South will gather in unity and strength for the Anambra South endorsement rally in honor of Governor Chukwuma Soludo, CFR, Oluwatuegwu, and Dr. Onyekachukwu Ibezim, Deputy Governor, as the Solution Government seeks a glorious second term. Venue, Equilobia Township Stadium. Time is 10 a.m. sharp. Date, Saturday, August 2nd, 2025. It's also the official senatorial campaign flag-off for Chief Emmanuel Nwachukwu Onodugo, the ABGA candidate for the Anambra South senatorial by-election. ABGA is marching forward with vision, purpose, and people at heart.
It's another job opportunity.
Are you a seasoned professional ready to take on your next big challenge? A reputable microfinance bank is urgently hiring for 2 key roles: managing director with a degree in accounting, finance or management, plus at least 7 years of managerial experience, and a certified microfinance banker, CMB certification. Head of ICT with a background in computer science or related field and solid experience in ICT systems. If you are dynamic, driven and qualified, send your CV to sunnyezana@yahoo.com. That's sunnyezana@yahoo.com or WhatsApp 0803-378-4258. Send your CV to sunnyezana@yahoo.com or WhatsApp 0803-378-4258. Deadline August 11, 2025. Don't miss this opportunity. Step into leadership today.
Quality bread, Wendy's bread, for your family breakfast. Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, Mama, Papa, they like Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, even children, they like Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, get it better, tasty, we go sweet your belly. Wendy's bread, Wendy's your bachama. Wendy's bread,
Wendy's bread, your tasty bread. You can contact us on our official address, Second Business Park, Enugu Road, GRA, beside Onitsha, Anambra State. We also have another branch at St. Michael Plaza at Tandy Road. Also contact us on 070-1149-1571. Wendy's bread, your tasty bread.
Wendy's bread.
Anambra Pictures for Soludo. APGA, APGA, APGA. Ndanambra ga kwanotio. Une
ekwekwana ka ewere unu wee kpuchie ọrụ ọma Chukwu na Chichas Soludo wee na-arụ na Anambra steeti. Unu makwa na anyụkọ mamịrị ọnụ ọkpụ ụfụfụ. Ngwa bịakọtanụ n'igwe ka anyị kwado nwanne anyị nwoke bụ Chukwuma Chichas Soludo. Unu afụghị ihe niile ọ na-eme na mbara dị iche iche site na Anambra North, South to Central. Na-ekwu okporo ụzọ niile nke ọrụgo, na-ekwu ụlọ akwụkwọ nke ọ na-emepe, na-ekwe hospital nke ọrụgo. Unu afụgono ka ụmụ nwaanyị anyị si wee na-amụ nwa n'udo free of charge. Ụmụ akwụkwọ wee na-agụ akwụkwọ n'efu. Ihe a niile ya na ihe ndị ọzọ ka Chukwuma Chichas Soludo na-eme na Anambra steeti. A na-ekwusi maka New Government House nke kwuru okwu ya kemgbe 1991, ya bụ 34 years na ya na Soludo arụgharịghị ya. Kedu maka New Solution Fund City nwanne m Soludo nọ n'ọrụ. Ndị Anambra ọrụ ọma ama nkwụkwọ agụ bịanụ n'igwe ka anyị kwado nwanne anyị nwoke bụ Chukwuma Chichas Soludo. Anambra Patriots for Soludo.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, so it's 10 minutes past 10 a.m. and you are listening to The Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. And we have been bringing you different stories from various newspapers. My name is Franklin and Olisa Mbeki and Chisom Chinedol of us are together for this very conversation. So I give a background of my experience at an IDP camp in Edo State some years ago. But the question I want to bring up now is it possible that we can turn around this story of every time people at the IDP camps complaining that they are not being taken care of? Can the story be turned around, or it's like a hydra-headed challenge that for the fact that people are not in their natural habitat, it will always not be enough to take care of them?
I think if you look at it, can we turn the story around? Let's be honest. We are told that Benue State or the ID camp in Benue State needs about 500 million naira monthly to meet their basic need of the number there. 500 million monthly. That's what is needed. But we are told that the state spends around 6 million naira monthly on IDPs, with actual monthly expenditure ranging from 15,000 to 166 million. But I remember that sometime around in January 2025, Governor Alia launched a 5-year IDP support program valued at about 853 billion naira, aimed at return, reintegration, and resettlement. There have been some donations made by world bodies. I'm also aware that sometime around June 2024, that the International Organization for Migration, Benue State, and the USAID launched a rapid response fund backed by about 3.8 million US dollars, about 1.9 billion naira, to assist over 200,000 IDPs with shelter, watch, cash transfer, and protection services. I don't know if this money has been really received by the IDPs. So sometime around July this year, the European Union pledged 500,000 euros, about 886 million naira for 6 months emergency aid, targeting shelter, water, sanitation, and also cash support for Benue IDPs. Even the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, Lagos chapter, sometime around this July, disbursed about 46.2 million naira to provide food and non-food relief to roughly about 1,000 displaced families in Yewata and the environs. I think they did this thing sometime around last week. I think last week they did this. And you can also understand that even sometime around October, Benue State government and UNICEF distributed hygiene kits and water sanitation support. But in all of this, just like I pointed out earlier on, if an ID camp needs about 500 million naira monthly and you are spending 15 million, so how would you say that is a case of being displaced from natural habitat? And definitely there will be complaints. These people, they go different days hungry without food. They can't eat themselves.
But you know, government has other needs, other financial needs to meet. That's what the government will always tell you, that they don't have that money all available to be able to meet all its
they must have the money. You know why? These people being in IDPs was not their making. It was as a result of failure of leadership. And all of a sudden, they become internally displaced persons. And for the fact that they are there, and we've seen some donation, most countries will not help you as much as you want to help yourself. And we've just seen the start is quite obvious. The 1 billion donated for integration, resettlement, and so many other things. How far can it go? We are talking about such a huge number, staggering number. You ask people who are in IDP in Benue State, just like I said, about 38% of internally displaced persons in the entire North Central region. It tells you a whole lot. And it was as a result of Fulani herdsmen attack program they have been carrying out on their soil. And it has continued. It has not even stopped. So for the fact that government couldn't stop them, and government keeps talking about grazing route and all that, and these people keep, and from day to day there are more people going into IDPs. Look at a population that can be turned to be productive in many countries. If you go to Netherlands, if we talk about their agricultural sector, they may not have up to such number employed that turns out to bring about over $100 million worth of exports. So we don't know how to use our population for good, and we don't know how to make them or convert them to be productive as well. It lies basically on government policies and agenda. But the key thing remains that security has cost us a lot. If we have security, these people wouldn't have been in IDPs.
So the solution is for us to deal with what led to
that is
the
it.
issue of
We
refugee.
cannot be cosmetic in approaching some of these things. We must not be focused on certain things or reactions. We must look at the cause, not the effect. The effect of insecurity is the IDPs we have. Over 8.18 million people in different IDP camps in Nigeria. What does that tell you? That's a staggering number, if you ask me.
Well, like you said, treat the causative factor. More often than not, if we do not get down to the root factor, year in, year out, we're going to keep setting up IDP camps. We're going to keep giving billions for rebuilding. And the next disaster comes in the next, give or take, 9 to 10 months, and we are back to square one. So I think the first thing we should do as a nation is to fix the root causes.
Okay, because if you look at what we have as data, you can see that people who are in the IDP camps now in Nigeria, there are some factors that are responsible, like Boko Haram insurgency. That's number one. You talk about banditry and the communal clashes. Then you talk about this herders farmers conflict. You talk about
environmental factors,
natural disaster, military operations, or whatever. But if you are going to do a categorization, you will see that banditry, Fulani herdsmen, farmer conflict, terrorism and co. They account for the majority of this very number. So if we can deal with this very security challenge, of course, we'll have a control on this.
Speaking about this now, I recall coming across a document that claimed that the peak of it all started during the time that Goodluck Jonathan wanted to run for, I'll call it his first tenure, because of course he completed the tenure of his then president, his then principal. So when he wanted to run for his first tenure, some of these things started. Some reports claimed there were some sort of political clogs thrown in the wheel. Unfortunately, they have remained there. And the big question is, what made it possible for them to emerge in the first place? We talk about poverty, we talk about illiteracy, talk about hunger, because it's easy for you to coax a hungry person into doing all sorts of things, banditry, kidnapping, terrorism inclusive. And so while we talk about fixing the matters on ground, I think it's also important that while we are tackling, rooting out these elements, we are also treating the matter that makes more people become like them, which includes taking care of hunger, taking care of poverty, and of course the teeming number of out-of-school children we have, especially in the areas affected. Okay,
so let's look at another story, which is regarding what NNPCL Group Managing Director said about the Port Harcourt refinery. The story has it that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, yesterday officially ruled that any plan to sell the Port Harcourt refining company, reaffirming its commitment to completing high-grade rehabilitation and retention of the plant. The group chief executive officer, Bayo Julare, announced this at a company-wide town hall meeting at the NNPC Towers, Abuja. Then Ojulare said that the position wasn't a shift, but informed by ongoing detailed technical and financial reviews of the Port Harcourt, Kaduna, and Warri refineries. He says the ongoing review has indicated that the earlier decision to operate the Port Harcourt refinery prior to full completion of its rehabilitation was ill-informed and sub-commercial. So 2 questions I want to get from here is this, because if you look at the headline we read, we can see the billions of dollars we have sunk in on turnaround maintenance of refineries that produce nothing or next to nothing. And the government of Buhari came around, pumped in money, brought in some, foreign contractors to do this very turnaround maintenance, some of them Italians and what have you not. And they started, and then when the government left, the government we have now came in and continued from there. At a point, we were told that the Port Harcourt refinery was, beginning to produce. It was ready to produce, and there was this very fanfare. At a point, talked about the one in Warri, and at the end of the day, everything ceased. So one thing is now, the first question is, since we have sunk in some good amount of money in this, and we have not gotten the result, should we consider what Obasanjo did many years ago when he proposed that this refinery should be sold? In fact, they were almost sold before the subsequent government, reversed everything. The number 2 is the point that, does it mean that the Port Harcourt refinery was put to use for political reason? From what NNPCL GMD is saying now, that it was ill-advised to have begun to use the refinery when it was not ready for use.
It's a kind of complex questions and complex issues you brought, and have always had my opinion on this issue of refinery, and then we can always look at it from different angles or from dispassionate ground. I'm aware that $2 billion was sunk in that very refinery, and it was something that the immediate leadership or management of NNPC, they did us 419. They did Nigerians wayo, and I don't know how, and many people who were involved, and they couldn't have done that without the politicians. The other time, Ojulari was at the House at the Senate, where he was asked to account for over 100 trillion the company had made over time, and without proper audit and things like that. So, but then I listened to him carefully, and then we know very well that these refineries, they are old. They are quite old, like a Port Harcourt refinery, the one that has capacity of about 60,000 barrel per day production. It was built and commissioned sometime around 1965. Very old. In fact, the new refinery in Port Harcourt, the one that was built in 1989, that has about 150,000 capacity. If you look around 1989 to date, that's, if you calculate it, somebody who was born 1989, how old is that person today? So, and I have always said, the refineries built those days had no AI, sensors, and so many things. And refineries built today, they usually have AI, sensors. But can we rebuild those refineries in those days and get something out of it? We can. But there are those who are saying sell it off. And if you want to sell it off, how much would they buy it? And we've seen privatization in Nigeria becoming distribution of our common patrimony to few politically interested people. They do party sharing, and that's what they do. So for me, if you look at the Kaduna refinery, for instance, it was sometimes commissioned 1980 with about 110,000 barrel capacity production. It has, we are told it underwent a comprehensive rehabilitation and modernization, but we didn't say anything. So they did us wayo. I know old refineries, just like I think Dangote argued that a vehicle built in 1970, there is no kind of rehabilitation we will conduct on it to make it to look like 2025 vehicle. He was making that argument.
So are you faulting the NNPCL, GMD? Are you saying that we should do away with this refinery?
They are experts in this industry, and I'm aware that if you are to upgrade these refineries to 2025, in fact, there are so many companies that are doing upgrade.
Tony,
they are doing upgrade. They can upgrade most times vehicle, depending on the kind of vehicle. They will do Toyota Land Cruiser, the one that was 2015 model. They will upgrade it to 2025. Have you not seen it? I've seen it.
I am tempted to ask you one question. Who is deceiving who? year in, year out, they put in money into these rehabilitations that never yield anything. Now, the big question is, when you sell them off, what would become of them? Somebody is going to be eventually able to do that, which you have been too insincere to do, because all I see here is insincerity of purpose. I mean, somebody like Dangote put a refinery together in how many years? And here we are, we have refineries. If we even had a maintenance culture, these refineries wouldn't have gone moribund in the first place, because as they were being used, they are upgraded simultaneously, as against waiting till they pack up. And so again, I ask you, who is deceiving who, and what is this thing we have with poor maintenance culture as a people?
I think what is going on in all of this is corruption. That is what is going on. In fact, if you talk about poor maintenance culture, there are amounts mapped out for this maintenance but never used, never utilized. The reason behind it is corruption. Why $2 billion was sunk in total overhaul of these refineries and nothing came out of it? The answer to it is corruption. Remember, this is not the first time. Even during the time of Obasanjo, we are told that over $16 billion was sunk, and Bishop Obasanjo denied in his book that he did not spend such amount of money in turnaround maintenance. It was called turnaround maintenance at that time. So we've seen where institutions are not working, and that's why these things cannot get out of the wood. And when institutions are not working, can we in a way concession these refineries to be managed by private entities who are statutorily devoted to such kind of work? If we allow government entities to manage some of these things, it will never work and it will never see the light of the day, because institutions are weak and they have failed to work. And institutions in this country, they have been slapped left and right by corruption from head to toe. So it is evident in their own manifestation in the works they do. So my concern is, these refineries, can we, there was a time, can we concession them? That's the first question I want to ask. Obasanjo said there was a time he called Ajip, called Shell, called all of these multi-giants to come and take over. They say they cannot. Do you know why they may not want to take over? Because of NNPC Limited. NNPC Limited is their regulator. And from the intent of the regulator, their regulators wouldn't want government to sell this thing off. And where they buy these things from government, the regulators will come after them. It's very simple. So it is important that if we want to solve a problem, we must go to the root cause, not really the effect of that very problem, but the root cause. What do we want? And the money's bandied around for maintenance, it is going into private pockets. There are people who are using it for their businesses, buying mansions, buying properties in Dubai, United States of America, in Canada, in different islands of the world. And that's where Nigerian monies are being sunk. I will tell you the honest truth. We can do better. We can get right leadership of this NNPC Limited. If we think ordinary leadership is the best, they must agree to government policies to see how they can concession. I don't believe in outright sell, because if you go on to sell these things, these politicians will buy it at cheaper rates. In fact, they will buy it for nothing. Exactly what happened when we talked about the very scandal that greeted the whole world coming from Nigeria. So the point I'm trying to make is that we can go for concessioning whereby the property belongs to you, but you give it to a private entity to manage and run it and account to you. So for me, that is what is best. But for me to go on to start rebuilding, overhauling with these people, with the same set of people, with the same set of institutions, let a company come and then agree to concessioning plan, and government can support them in rebuilding the process, and they can see, because it becomes a business. That's the only thing that can save these things.
All right, so we have another story that if you look at the Vanguard, look at the Guardian, I think these two papers, they capture this very story. It's all about the plan by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, to start compulsory drug testing integrity, or rather compulsory drug integrity tests for students of tertiary institutions, and it's going to be for those who are returning to school, and then and the freshers, those who are going to the universities for the very first time, because there was this very meeting that was held between the NDLEA Chief Executive Officer, talking about Buba Marwa, and then the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa. And at the end of that very meeting, the Minister of Education agreed that there is need to start this very drug test in our higher institutions as a way of fighting illicit drug use. And the question is, what do you think about this very move? Is this something that we should ensure that we get to implement?
I think introducing a compulsory drug testing policy for university students, covering fresh admissions, returning students after vacations, and periodic random tests, I think in a way to go about fighting drug. It is not holistic. We need drug tests for our politicians too, those who are contesting election. If you are to come out for anything, there will be random drug tests. Most of their policies are more like a janjaweed policy. You cannot even understand where that will be coming from. So I'm aware that university in Kwara State, that is Kwasu, began implementing this policy in December 2024. Even when before the NDLEA has started talking about the policy, the Kwara State University started drug testing in December 2024, making all newly admitted students undergo drug screening. But the question is that they are charging 7,000 naira and issuing a certificate of integrity necessary for you to sit the exam. I condemn it. Why would you charge students 7,000 naira for you to conduct drug tests on them? Kwara State University. Not just that, and you issue certificate of integrity. So does it mean that somebody who you tested of drug today cannot consume it tomorrow? So what is the validity period of that certificate of integrity? Because one thing about drug is that you can, if you don't take drug for almost 2 weeks, it may not be found in your bloodstream. But after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you can go on and take it again. So does that invalidate the certificate of integrity issued to you? For me, that is rubbish. Outright rubbish. That is what is going on. But
Tony, can I please interject at this
please
point?
come in.
When you talk about also testing our politicians, while that is a novel suggestion, I like to think that when we have a problem and we really want to solve it, it's not a solution to say, you're looking to solve my problem. Have you solved that of Okeke? Have you solved
must
that
start
of
somewhere. That's the point
Okafor?
you're trying to make.
Well, if we are to start somewhere, these children are supposed to be the future generation, but we see what drugs do to them. This morning, I had an experience. I saw him pretty young, and I told myself, if only this one would leave drugs, he would be so fine. But you see what it does to them? It takes them out of human level. They are almost on a zombie level. They barely eat healthy. They are looking all raggedy and all stuff like that. The point is, drugs is really hurting the young generation of today, and we really need to do something about it. Now, the cost, like you mentioned, is there a way that we can have the government shoulder this? Now, is there also a way that we can have this drug test done intermittently? I'm thinking it's going to be pretty expensive, but what she raised is actually an accurate concern. Yes, I'm going back to school, so I know I'm going to be tested probably before I gain entrance into the school gate. So I stay clear for 2 weeks. You get it? And then they get tested, they go back and they continue where they stopped. So is there going to be a way of making sure that we root it out? So maybe a systematic, continuous test, something that lets them know that you can be tested at any time. So it's best to stay clean.
The best way to fight drug is to fight the harbinger, those who cultivate the same drug, who traffic it, who import it. That's the best way, because if a drug addict does not see one, he will not consume. But you can still get to them. But the most important thing is we must have a strong policy. In China, if you're convicted of drug, that is capital punishment. You die for it. There's no two ways about it. In most Asian countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, and even in Arab countries, pure capital punishment. In fact, you can't just smoke cannabis, sativa, and just go scot-free. But these are some of the things that are being taken in our streets, not just in schools. And if in fact you go to secondary school, that is where the problem begins. We are talking about university. When they have become pro, in fact, university level, they are playing Champions League. But we can go get them young at secondary school level, as low as JSS1, JSS2. That is when they are playing amateur league. We can step up the fight. The fight should be on two prongs: the cultivation, the trafficking, the sell, the resell. we must launch a manhunt and come up with a strong legislation against those who are into this. If you don't go by life punishment, we can also go by life sentence, and that is one. And then rehabilitation, because drug has caused all these things we are seeing in our society. You can attribute 30% of societal malaise to drug. There is no doubt about it. But if you allow the NDLEA now, they will start making money out of it. If you're going by Oka Road, you will see them searching people. And when they search people and they see cannabis sativa in your belongings, they part away with money. And institutions are weak. It's not about fighting some of these things. Those who are fighting these things, that are also using it for business. That is my anger. Look at Kwara State University. 7,000 naira for drug tests, and they will issue certificate of integrity. I don't know when that integrity certificate will last.
They are going to be tested.
It tells you a whole lot. The country is really on the precipice, on the brink. We need a foundational overhaul. Some of these things are synthetic approach in solving or trying to clear the effect without clearing the root. The root is still there. What is our value system in our homes? You see a father and a mother, both of them take some of these things. And just like somebody, I listened to Break and Break program this morning, and somebody called in and made a valid point. If you go to many clubs here in Nigeria, what they do in those clubs, they sell drugs. The one they call Chisha. You see young ladies puffing in and puffing out the whole thing. I asked a vendor, what is this thing they are puffing in and out? What is it all about? The person said Chisha. And I asked the person, which one is Chisha again? So the person went on to say, you can mix it with this, you can mix it with this flavor, you can mix it with that flavor. If you want to take it so that you'll be high, I say, high as what? High as what? So this tells you that we have this decadence everywhere. We must have a clear blueprint, a roadmap of how to stamp out drug, not about random university testing. I just said about politicians because of their this, but we can begin somewhere, just as Chisom pointed out.
All right, so let's go for this very commercial break. After the break, we're going to begin to take your calls. Don't forget that the phone numbers are still valid. The phone numbers you've been reaching us with, just for us to reiterate the phone number 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
AFM. We give you more than properties. We give you opportunities. From Nkwele to Umuya, Awka to Umweri, from Oba to Agleri, Mbako to Oji River, from Emene to Asaba, Aba to Abuja, Lagos to Imo. AFF is planning possibilities in over 20 states across Nigeria with free inspection. We are in Alkanai table water, purity in every drop. We are in wine, the refreshment for your soul. Get 5% interest in just 3 months or grow it to 20% in 1 year. No story, just favor.
You register with Obelego. I get just one plot of land in
AFF Landport Global Estate Limited, where favor meets opportunity. Visit our physical office at number 56 Tony Ume Street, Awada, or call us now on 070-6567-6913. AFF Ujane Mogo.
Empowerment. Dynamic Mama, a non-governmental organization that empowers women from 18 years and above, presents Business Empire and Empowerment Program featuring skill acquisition, giving out food items, paying hospital bills, house rents, business startup funds, etc. Every member is entitled to one empowerment program every year. Every serious-minded woman with zeal to overcome poverty is eligible to be a member. Dynamic Mama is soliciting for assistance from good-hearted Nigerians to help women in need. Office is at number 22 John Modiobu Street and Opasant Layout, Obosi, Anambra State, by St. Joseph the Walker Parish. For more information, you can call 080-641-28843, 080-641-28843.
You never leave me, no forsake me.
104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved.
Alright, so you are listening to The Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. It's time for us to open the phone lines to bring you on board for this very conversation. Don't forget, my name is Franklin Ebuka. Olisa Mbeki and Chisom Udala for us are together for today's conversation. Our Facebook page is live. Drop your comment there. We are going to acknowledge it. So let's go to the phone lines now. 0803 221 6973 or 0803 827 6694. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Yes, good morning. Your name?
Good morning. It's me, Jidebe. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you. What's your name?
Okay, I am calling from Mukpo.
Okay, go on, sir.
Yeah, this drug of the skills by the end of the year. I think it's a good idea. It's a good thing. But may I tell them, most of them in this area, they still take those drugs. Most of them, most of them take these drugs. What are you going to do about it? Even politicians, they also take drugs too. What are we going to do about it? They say, most of the high ranking people in the one, they take these drugs too. Not only students. People in they take these drugs. In the social, they take these drugs too. So we start from here. Thank you. That's what I feel this morning.
Alright, okay. The hunter has become the hunt. Okay, I've been putting it on. Alright, hello, good morning.
Hello.
Yes.
I am Badmos Onwama.
Okay.
I'm calling from Ewi.
Go on.
Good. I want to comment on the area of the assassination. Some people are saying that it is because of business competition, the fish business the guy is into. And I disagree on that. Who knows the guy in fish business? Is it the fish business that many people that are into that are running away from it? And the assassination of that guy is not connected to the business he's into. And the last time I checked, those that are hurting those that in such business will either keep a new lay or all this poison for that person. Not do you know how much it takes to hire somebody that has guns to go and kidnap person? Who is in such business that can contract someone with guns to go strategically and kidnap him? I don't see, his death is not because of his business. I'm saying this, remember that you said that when the guy, they called the mother to inform her that she should come and pick the dead body of her son. So I'm saying all these things may be politically motivated. Maybe they want to they want to hurt the woman. So I'm seeing politics in all this.
All right, thank you. Your 2 minutes is gone. Hello, good morning.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning. Your name?
Firstly, good morning.
Good morning.
This is Honorable Monday Johnson, and I'm calling in from Onitsha. Mr. Speaker, good morning.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's good to have you.
All right, go on. It's 10:42.
Actually, I believe all you said, Mr. Speaker, on that young man that was gruesomely murdered. Actually, there's no country in the world that you cannot see one or two things happening. But when a kid knows that it goes into that act, that it will be caught at the end of the day, that will left him no other option than to revert from engaging into
unravel the situation and bring the perpetrators to book. A situation where a crime is perpetrated and the investigation lasts to infinitum. That to me as a person is nothing but failure.
All right.
So the responsibility of the government. Finally, the government of Anambra should play. In as far the political situation, they should unravel the situation and let us know actually those who perpetrated an act against that innocent young man.
All right. Thank you. Hello. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes. Good morning. Your name?
Mr. Security from Onitsha. Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
You're welcome. It's good to have you. Can you be audible, please?
Yes. Just like you are bewildered by hearing that name, Sisha. So I am. I've heard such a name, and I said, how does it look like? What does it stand for? Just like you said, you brought it into the country. If it is foreign, are you getting it? If it is local, who are those who are grooming it? Apart from security personnel taking a substance I suspected, and I approached one of them. He said, can I mind my business? I said, you, with our uniform, taking such illicit drug. You know, things have gone so in this country when it concerns those drugs. It's unfortunate that the high and mighty are involved in it. That's why it is not stopping. In those years, when we have the MPP, MPN, in my place, one of our representatives in the house fight it and nail to deal with the man that was growing it within the locality. But today, reverse is the case. Very sorry for the gruesome murder of the young man. Mr. Speaker, I have a friend here in Onitsha. For some months now, he was taken. Ransom millions have been paid, tens of millions, yet we don't know his whereabouts. Please, I'm pleading with security agencies and people and the kind of business you do. Security is everybody's business. This is one day too many. How can such a young person, I don't know him, but I just saw the thing online. And knowing that he has kind of a political background through the mom, can we have a holistic investigation over this incident? It may lead to other ones, because one crime leads to other. My sympathy goes to the family. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for joining. Hello. Good morning. Hello.
I am Jedim. Izia Pakego, streaming live from Oslo.
Okay, go on, sir.
Good morning, everyone in the studio. You see, let me bear my mind on the refineries in Nigeria and its problem with the NNPC. The refineries cannot work because Nigeria is running on a bad political foundation. No economy functions in an atmosphere or environment where there are multi-divergent value systems. Let's get to the bank. We are beating about the bush. And so, purpose and workabilities in Nigeria, where the refineries or one of them is located in the north, and the northerners are making use of it. From there, they are tapping from it. It is uplifting them. Would anybody have polluted any feed from that refinery resources or output? The answer is absolutely no, because there is value system here. I take, for instance, what happened between 1960 and 1966, when there was this regional government. Nigeria was enjoying to the extent that the foreigners were coming to Nigeria to enjoy. There was boom everywhere in the north, in the east, middle belt, and the west. Today, Nigeria is one. Nothing is working.
All right.
Because there is no value system. That's the reason why the refineries will only continue to be what? To be tampered and be jeopardized with. Yes, to solve Nigeria's problem, we have to be regionalized. Or, at best,
my Lord and my Savior, Mazen Nanigano. Good morning, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Go on with your
Good
thoughts.
morning, Olisa Mbeki.
You're welcome. It's good to have you.
This is Ebuka calling from Olisa.
Okay, so Ebuka, Anaha checking our win on. We can't hear yourself.
Okay, sorry, I'm away from that place.
All right, go on.
Okay, issue I want to talk on about drug abuse in Onitsha. It is only, if you watch one video that a boy was stabbed to death along one joint. That boy, they said he's a policeman. His father is a policeman. If you saw the video, this is what I heard. And the boy was stabbed.
Are you still there?
He's a dealer of drugs. Hello?
Okay, please, can you just go on and wrap up because we are trying to manage our time.
So, in the issue of Nigeria should be ashamed of themselves because in the whole world, so it is only Nigeria that their refineries are not working, but they are the giants of Africa. These our rulers think that the foreigners are not know what they are doing. They're never doing them. People are watching them. The outside Nigerians are watching them. Let them go on, but one day, God will come in our intervention.
All right, thank you. Thank you. So I think we have to go to our Facebook page now. Let's see the reactions there.
All right, it's at Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Go ahead and drop your comment there. We are starting with yours. Bright Emmanuel, he says, I look forward to... Oh, okay. Thank you for that commentation. Tochiko Stanley Unobo Ara. Okay, let's see what you have to say, Stanley. Talking about IDP, I want to know, are these large numbers of people going to have their entire lives as the above mentioned nomenclature? Again, is our various arms of government doing anything significant to make sure that these people return to their various homes to achieve their dreams as Nigerian citizens? I'm curious to know if lives matter at all to the government of the day, the APC. Maole Barra says, I want Onanuga to know that second term is not a right. Tinubu was voted for 4 years and his performance is below average to deserve a second term. Nigerians have not had it this bad and we cannot pass through this way again. God will not allow his children to continue in this excruciating pain and frustration. Patrick Walton says, okay, thank you for being here, Albino Patrick. The issue with the RDP camp, it's a business. Government will say that they will give the grant, but everything is false. That's your opinion. Apollo Nyeka Chiku Ifenu, good to have you. Austin Mergel says, on the plans to sell off our refineries, our government are not telling us, the Nigerians, the truth. From Obasanjo's government down to this present Tinubu's government, all of them are not telling us their real plans by wanting to sell off our refineries. Will the buyers use them as fish ponds? Even the money spent on turnaround maintenance to me is a scam, a fraud. They shared the money within themselves, both the people in the NNPCL and the government at the top. Eke Gona says, I said this long ago that our security operatives need to be more equipped. It's election period, and this is the time we usually hear bad news everywhere, and I believe this man's killing was politically motivated. More Chikwaduro. He says, my take is on the issue of compulsory drug test. Exercising such tests on tertiary students is extremely nice and acceptable, but let it be extended to our security personnel, lawmakers, judges, politicians, and officials. In fact, all government parastatals and also traditional and Christian leaders, they should be involved in this drug examination because they are also involved in this act. Edubem Stanley, my first question to you, Tony Mbeki, is what is the role of the DSS in the country concerning insecurity and kidnapping?
And from there, we take it up so that we get to wrap up. So, Tony, let's start from there. DSS, they call them the secret police that deals with intelligence.
I think DSS, it's just one of the security agencies they are known by law as State Security Service (SSX). So it's top domestic intelligence agency. Their work is majorly intelligence agency, and it plays a critical role in protecting national security, internal stability, and government institutions. I think their roles are primarily to protect the citizens, their properties, internal stability, and also protect government institutions. So if you look at it, their primary responsibility is majorly gathering intelligence within Nigeria to detect, prevent, and neutralize threats. They share their intelligence to different other sister agencies. They share the intelligence to military, to police, to paramilitary organizations, and it monitors group or individuals that may pose a threat to national unity and sovereignty. But one would ask, have they been working? And we keep having the constant attack in Benue State and Plateau State. So I can go on to let you know that these are their primary responsibilities, and they have been involved in screening any appointment that the government wants to make. They will screen the person. They will do background check before the Senate confers, because once Mr. President writes to the Senate takes their names to the SSS, where they conduct screening and conduct background check to know if the person poses any security threat. So I think that's the question. And I also want to add, before we wrap up, that we must also focus on our young girls. These days I do see young secondary school girls taking drugs, and then I have been astonished by such anomaly. For me, it is totally anomaly, unheard of, but it is going on. So the need for parents to also refocus their attention outside the male children, to also look towards their female children. Many of them are taking these hard substances in their school as level as secondary school. Is important.
Okay, Chisom, we have to leave.
Yes, definitely we have to leave, and I'd personally be making an appeal to fellow young Nigerians. Whenever I sign out, I'd say be the change that you desire. And on this issue of drugs, I'd like the average Nigerian youth who is a user to sit back and look at his or her life. You like your life as it be so? It's a rhetoric. Answer that for yourself.
So, okay, on that very note, we thank every one of you for joining today's conversation. And tomorrow, we are going to be here again. My name is Franklin and Ebuka. Good morning. Thank you for listening.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.